Oh my gosh, this is recording. Oh. You know, guys, like, I'm gonna keep it real. A lot of times at school, like, I really wish that I went to an HBCU just because, like, it seems like it's so much more fun. Like, it seems like it's so much more lit and everyone's having a great time. Like, I really had to take a second and think about if I actually made the right decision in my school. So, you did not just walk in here while I'm filming.
What's up, man? It's
Goodbye. Anyways, a lot of times I find myself like wishing that I went to a HBCU. So I just really wanted to take the time to think about if I actually made the right decision. And just weigh the pros and cons for each one. So I know that people are about to go to college in August, and you probably already have your school figured out if you just graduated. But if you're graduating next year, you might want to know what's the difference between a HBCU and a PWI, what are the pros and cons, what might you like and what might you not like. So this is just a list. I have friends at HBCUs, PWIs, and I called a few of them, asked what do you think are pros and cons of each one? And I made a list as well of what I thought. So this is the compiled list of pros and cons from DSU, or Delaware State University, Howard, Hampton, George Washington, USC, etc., etc., UD, University of Delaware, and the list goes on. So for pros of an HBCU, this is what I hear. I clearly don't go to a HBCU. I go to University of Southern California. But they say that just being around black people who are excellent and who are doing good things with their life, it kind of gives them hope to see other people who look like them doing things that they might want to do. So I guess the whole black excellence thing, it's really thriving at HBCUs. Another thing is the alumni network. They really look out for their students. So the people that I asked described it as a family. So even the professors, the teachers, the alumni, the administrators, the students, they all kind of treat each other like family, and that's really helpful. Just to navigate regular college things, it's much easier to navigate when you have help and you have people who you feel have your back actually. Another thing, it's lit. They have all the events. The Greek life is obviously crazy. They have the culture. Everyone knows what everyone else is talking about. You don't have to really explain cultural references. It's just really people at a HBCU, well, if you're black, they just get you and get what you have going on and what you're trying to do. Another pro is just an overall safe learning environment. So at an HBCU, as a black person, you don't really feel the little microaggressions or little hostility that you might feel at a PWI when you're surrounded with people who don't look like you or don't understand what you have going on. So just the safe learning environment and being able to thrive in a situation that you feel comfortable in is good. Now on the flip side, some kinds of HBCU that I hear all the time, on Twitter and from my friends and all that stuff. Poor administration. Poor administration. It really is disorganized, and it's always a runaround whenever you have an issue that you need to resolve, which can be really, really frustrating, especially if you have something that needs to be done on a deadline, or if you have a really pressing issue that's preventing you from learning in some way. It's kind of hard to actually get to a solution at a HBCU. A lot of people also say that being in an HBCU really kind of makes it hard to readjust to the outside world or to the real world. So, like, when you've gone to an HBCU for so long and then you walk outside and there's white people, like, you're kind of shocked, like, because you're so used to being in a place where it's just you and people who look like you, and then you get to the real world and it's like a slap in the face. Also, they say that it's more, I don't want to say more competitive, but it's like, you know, sometimes when you're at a PWI, certain spots that you'll get, it's not because you're the token black person, but it's like, okay, we need at least one black person to fill our quota, so where they at? Whereas at an HBCU, it's kind of like you guys are all, you know, black, so there's not really a quota that needs to be filled. Like, you actually have to be good and have the merit, the real merit, like above and beyond to actually get like certain things, like certain positions, roles, whatever. Another thing that I didn't even think of when I was thinking of my list of pros and cons, for an athlete, there's a lot less exposure. So if you're an athlete at an HBCU, you might not get as many looks or as much exposure, as many scouts at your game as if you went to a PWI, just because they have a lot more funding and more resources and, you know, better athletic facilities, etc., etc., etc. Whereas at an HBCU, it's usually not the best athletic situation. You know, it's cool, but it's not where you could be. Now, PWIs, where I go. Pros, there's usually a really great alumni network. So it's very easy to network and find, you know, someone who knows someone who knows someone who can help you out. And a lot of PWIs, they have that, like, really intense school pride. So they're like, oh, you went to, like, for example, USC. If I tell someone I went to USC in LA, they know someone who went to USC, they went to USC, they live near USC, they went to all the USC football games. Like, somehow they're connected to USC, and that really goes a long way. Also, funding in general. PWIs get a lot of money from endowments, from their athletics, from, you know, donors. Like, PWIs make a lot of money, and they have a lot of money coming in, which makes for better resources, better technology, better, you know, learning environments, athletic facilities, dining. Like, everything is just brought up a notch because of the money that they do have bringing in. And those resources make for what seems like a better education. So I don't want to say that you get a better education at a PWI versus a HBCU, but there's just more like academic resources available to you, and they have more money for more professors, you know, more classrooms, more courses. With the resources, you get just better, like, living, housing situations, like just little stuff like that. You just get more for your money, if that makes sense. Also, administration is usually pretty productive. Like, if you have an issue, they know who you need to talk to. You go talk to that person, and, you know, you guys figure it out how to solve the problem. Like, it's not really so much of a runaround. It's not really so much of, like, oh, you got to call this person not going to answer, so then you got to wait till tomorrow, call again. Like, it's not really all that stuff going on. Also, at PWIs, I feel that there's, like, less distraction. So I think at an HBCU, it's easy to get caught up in the life of an HBCU, like the events, the getting dressed up every day, the dudes, like the girls. It's just a lot that you can get caught up in. Whereas at a PWI, you know, you have more propensity to be better focused. One thing that I will say about a PWI is I feel that the degrees tend to hold more prestige over, like, an HBCU, obviously depending on who's looking at your application and depending on what school you go to. But most of the time, I think if you have a degree from a PWI and you have a degree from a HBCU, it's like, you know, they're more likely to have heard of the PWI, so they're more likely to hire you, or give you this scholarship or this whatever, this position, this whatever it is. Now the cons, honey. Most of the cons are racially driven, honestly, not gonna lie. A lot of people, a lot of black people at HBCU feel underrepresented. Like, there usually aren't a lot of black people on campus who look like you or act like you or talk like you. There just aren't a lot of black people. And the small amount of black people that are there, a lot of people would think that they like stick together and are family and all that good stuff. But, and at least this is my experience, I don't feel like that's really accurate. I actually feel like it's more competitive, like, within the black community. Like, it's not like, oh, let's all do this together so we can all get ahead. More so, it's like, okay, they only have one spot for the black person, so it's me or you, and it's gonna be me. So, like, it's not really so much of like a let's help lift each other up, whereas it's like, oh, I might have to step on you to get to where I'm going, but it's still all love. Like, maybe when I get there, I can help you out, but right now, it's me. It's me time right now, which can be kind of frustrating. Like, even not like a academic thing per se. Like, even with, like, for example, guys, like, if you're a pretty black girl, you see another pretty black girl on campus, that's like one more girl you gotta worry about because it's only a few black dudes. Like, that's kind of how it is, and it's really, like, sad, honestly. And I definitely feel the jealousy running around, but that's neither here nor there. I also feel like it can be segregated. Like, a lot of times, like, if a black person at a PWI tends to stay with the other black people. Like, you find your little circle or whatever, and you just stay with them, and it kind of, you don't really branch out to being around, like, other people, because it is pretty segregated, at least in my experience. I don't want to speak for all PWIs, but I think it's pretty segregated. And the black people who are there, you do experience a fair share of coonery. Like, there are some Uncle Toms, there are some coons, there are some hoteps, okay? And, it's just so many different types of black people. And it can be annoying. Like, a lot of the black people at PWIs are people who have been surrounded by white people, like, their whole life. So, they be making, black errors, to say the least. And that's another thing. Like, at a PWI, there's not really much of a black culture. Like, the Greek life is, like, okay, maybe if you're lucky. The black events are cool, but it's not like the center of attention. There's just not really a focus on, like, making sure that blackness is appreciated on campus at a PWI versus a HBCU. I hear a lot of black people at PWI say they wish they went to a HBCU, but I have yet to hear a black person at a HBCU say that they wish they went to a PWI. So, I'm not telling you what to do, but the proof is in the pudding, okay? I think it just depends on what you really are looking for in life. Like, I think if you're very career driven and, want to get the quickest route to where you're going and want to get more resources and want to get, more connections in the real world, PWI is cool for that. HBCU is more of, like, what experience you want in college. Like, if you want to be in a situation with other thriving black people, then obviously you would want to go to an HBCU. Like, I think it's like an HBCU, you'll have, like, a more experience driven college life, Whereas a PWI is more like, okay, I'm going to college to get my career going. Whereas I'm not going to college to like have fun or, and I'm not saying you don't have fun at PWI. I'm saying like I'm going to college not so much for the experience rather than for like what I'm trying to do in the future. But yeah, that's my list. If I missed anything, feel free to comment. If you guys have any thoughts or questions or inputs, comment below. Also, like this video, please, and subscribe to my channel.